Okay, welcome. Okay, so like a lot of these kinds of things, webinars and whatnot, we often start these things very slowly. This is an unusual piece of software, so it might take time for people to get familiarized with it, to connect to audio and things. I know what it's like myself. I often decide I'll just duck off and get a cup of tea before it starts and then get back and realize, oops, I'm late. So we'll give people a little bit of time to get on board with us. We did have quite a few more registrations than the number of attendees we have right now, so we will wait a little while longer, but I don't want to take too long because we don't have a ton of time scheduled in today. Okay, before we do begin, I will take this moment to acknowledge the original owners of country throughout Australia and its collection of surrounding islands. I'm coming to you from the lands of the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation, and I myself have connection to the lands of the Awabakal people. I will pay respects to all and any First Nations Australians with us here today. And today I would like to make special acknowledgement of the National Nadoc Committee during this Nadoc week, and in particular the co-chairs John Paul Jenke and Shannon Dodson, and everyone on the National Nadoc Committee. I'll also pay respects to elders, whether they be past, present or emerging, and recognise that these lands were never ceded and that sovereignty was never extinguished. Okay, a bit of housekeeping for today. This software doesn't let you unmute yourself, so if you do have a question for us, please feel free to submit it in the questions section of your control panel. This is being recorded. I will try to get this online, hopefully by the end of the day. Definitely by the end of the week. I will be showing you where to find things like the recordings of training sessions and whatnot a bit later on. Also, I think you can make my face a bit smaller and make the screen class or whatever we'll be looking at a bit bigger. If you want to, feel free to do that. Okay. Okay, welcome to class training. Today we're starting from the start. We're going to have a preface to class. So this is starting from the very beginning. My name is Samuel Martin. I've been on the ICT team at Community Legal Centres Australia for about the past 2.5 years. Been doing these training sessions for about the past 18 months. I've just realised, excuse me, because I didn't put a slide in, which I should have. I have a question for you, so let me do that now. I'm just going to really quickly set up this poll. There it goes. Have you ever seen the 2-hour-long version of this training session? Yes, no, or don't even know what I'm talking about? Feel free to submit a response to that question. It's not mandatory. If you don't want to, don't bother. Okay, so here's an overview of our session. There's a lot of tech terminology in there. I'm going to be going through a lot of this, and the results of our poll will kind of inform us of why we're kind of starting from the very beginning today. So I'm going to close that poll. 73% of people voted. That's a pretty high number of people, and we're closing the poll, and 80% said no, they'd never seen the 2-hour-long version of this training session. So what we used to do was we did this training session. It used to take 90 minutes, and then we realized there's more content we can't fit it all in 90 minutes. So we extended it out to 2 hours and put in a little break so you could go to the loo halfway through. And then we realized it's hurting people's brains. It's epic. It was hurting my brain. So we're now doing it differently. So today we're doing about 1/4 of that session. And we'll do the rest of it over the coming weeks. And then in about 4 or 5 weeks from now, we're going to go through community projects or delivering services to the community anyway. That is why we're starting from the very start today. So we're going to start with some of the history and things like that. We will have a bit of a look at class a little bit later, but that's coming up a bit later. Okay. Just give me this, just bear with me. Okay, great. All right. Excuse me, bit of a frog in the throat. Okay. So going back to what I was saying, starting from the very start, we really are starting from the beginning today. So what is class, and more importantly, what is it not? So class is obviously it's the system where we enter data, the online system we use to store data, information about our clients and the services we deliver to those clients. What class is not? Class was never intended to be a full CMS. So this sector, the community legal sector, if you're new to it, welcome aboard. This sector is full of tech terminology and jargon. It's also full of alphabet soup. Things like CMS. CMS could be a content management system. In this instance, I'm talking about a case management system. So over the last while, in fact, since January of 2017, when I believe class was launched. Now, class predates even my time in the sector. I joined the community legal sector in towards the end of 2019, so class was already up and running. So over about the last 5 years, a lot of work has been done to improve class, to make it a better system, a more functional system, but it could be used as a full case management system, but it was never really intended to be that. So there are some limitations with class, but generally it's a pretty good system. Hopefully getting some of this training will help you to use it a bit better. So the previous system prior to class was called Silsys. Now, you don't need to know what that means. There's more of our alphabet soup, and it doesn't really matter what Silsys was, just so you know that Silsys was a desktop-based app. So you had to download it to your desktop of your computer, and then you had to then email through your data to your program manager. Anyway, class is a major improvement, but it is now 5 years old. One other thing to mention about class is funding. Class has been underfunded from the start. I'm not going to get too political other than to say that I was very happy to see a change of government. When was that, last month? No, it must have been the month before. Anyway, class has been underfunded. So that has, I'm not pointing fingers or anything, but if you were going to do a system like this properly, you would hope that it would be funded properly. In this case, not so much. Okay, so here's one of our bits of jargon, tech terminology, whatever you want to think of it as. Data consistency. So you might not even wrap your heads around some of these tech terms today. It took me months to wrap my head around data consistency and the data consistency guide. And anyway, basically what data consistency means is that if you're entering data into class, whether that be a client, whether that be a service you're delivering to that client, it would be good if that was done the same way across the country. And there are really valid reasons for that. So I heard not too long ago someone during a webinar, maybe out of Western Australia, maybe out of Queensland, I can't quite remember, but someone was saying that we need to stop apologising for class, that it is kind of about it's the only type of system. It's the only system of its type, probably in the country and maybe in the world. I can't think of any other system where you would collect data for an entire sector in one online system. So if we're doing that across the board and we're then using that data to then go back to policymakers, decision makers, governments, funding bodies, which we do, then it would be great if we had really consistent data so we can say we know exactly what's going on. So if you're ever wondering, how do I enter this? What do I actually enter into class here? We've got a couple of resources for you. The first one is the Data Standards Manual. Now that comes from the AG, or alphabet soup, or the AGD, if you like, which is the Attorney General's Department. Now, this is the federal one, that's their website. Now, if you were just to do a Google search for Data Standards Manual, you'll almost certainly find it. It's pretty easy to find. I could show you later on where to find it. If you would like me to do that, just pop that into the questions section of your control panel, and I'll do that. It's really easy to find the Data Standards Manual. And that's the official guide on what data to collect, how to collect data, and what to put into class in what circumstances. Now, Community Legal Centres Australia decided at some time, this also predates my time in the sector, but it was decided that the Data Standards Manual wasn't really broad enough. Looking for a very diplomatic term there. Anyway, we then went and developed the Data Consistency Guide, which is a fabulous term. Anyway, I will show you where to find that a bit later and how to use it. It's a great guide. In fact, you know what? I'll just go and show it to you right now. So this is class. This is the login page for class. I'm just going to flick over to a new tab in my web browser here and load up the CLC's Australia website. Here it is. Okay, now if I go back to that, now the website is clcs.org.au. And once I get here, if I hover over resources in the middle there, you can see the second option down is the Data Consistency Guide. Excuse me, a bit of a frog in the throat. So this is our Data Consistency Guide, and it has data on, it has information on all sorts of things relating to data. So all your different service types, so all the discrete services, your legal advice and legal tasks being the big ones there, the most commonly used ones, and then your ongoing services. We've got information on all of those there, but we've got so much more in here, how services are grouped, facilitated resolution processes, community projects, there's case studies. So if you're ever wondering, what do I enter into class, or how do I enter into class, there's several guides there. There's a couple of guides there for you to look at. This is the Data Standards Manual, and as I was saying before, you just do a Google search, and then this is it's the top one right there. It turns up nice and easy for you. The National Legal Assistance Data Standards Manual, if I open that, I can have it in either, so this takes you to the AEG's website, and I can have it in either PDF format or Word format, and you can look at either one. I'll open the PDF one for you because it'll open in the browser, and this is what it looks like. And maybe you're looking for information on legal advices, you could just do a control find and go advice, and there's 76 results, and then you just go through and find the one you're looking for. Maybe you do a better search than that. Anyway, I won't go on about this too much more. So there's a couple of guides there for you in terms of data, how to enter data into class. So that's data consistency. Okay, Geo Location. Now, going on from data consistency, this is this is a really great example of when data really does need to be accurate and does need to be consistent. Yes, this sector is absolutely full of tech terms, and geolocation, it basically means the client's address. So my advice to you is to get as much of the address from the client as you can as soon as possible, and to get that into class as soon as possible in the first instance. As soon as you're entering the client into class, get their address in there as soon as you can, and try to get the full address in there. The reason for this is that oftentimes funding bodies want to know how many clients were seen in a particular area. So we can get them data for that and say there were X number of clients or whatever piece of data they want. If the address information data, the address data you're putting into class isn't as accurate as it could be, that client might not be picked up when someone is pulling that data out of class. So this is the advice, is to get as much of the address as soon as possible and to get that into class straight away. Okay, right. So now we'll go and have a quick look at class, and I know logging in is about as basic as it gets, but I'll show it to you anyway. Now, a couple quick more bits of information for you. This is the URL that you want to use to access class. Now, if you do a Google search, you may not get the correct class. There are a couple of different systems called class. We've got ours. There's another one. I know that there's at least one other in Australia that's for a completely different industry. So I recommend maybe bookmarking this URL because Google doesn't always give you the correct result. If you just do a search for class, it seems a bit better now, but I'm not sure. So just to be on the safe side, maybe this is worth bookmarking or something like that. Also, web browsers, I need to really quickly mention. So class was developed, it was developed to work with Google Chrome. So we're fairly certain it should work well with Google Chrome. We're fairly sure it also works with Microsoft Edge, or at least the really modern version of Microsoft Edge. If your Edge is up to date, then it should work with that. If you want to know if you've got the right version of Edge, I think it is that the logo should be blue or green, but you could try it, and if it works, great. If not, then maybe let us know and we'll see if we can help you out. I'll be giving you information on how to get in contact with the class help desk later on for all of your questions about class and other things. I'm fairly certain that class does not work well with other browsers. I use several browsers myself, and I'm fairly sure it doesn't work well with things like Firefox, so just keep that in mind. Okay. So let's go and have a look at class now. So I will flick over to, that's back to the DSM. There's more of that alphabet soup, data standards manual. Okay, we'll flick over to class to have a look at it. So this is going to be the login screen. When you first go to that URL I just mentioned, there it is. This is what you're going to see. And we've got this button here that says single sign-on. So to log in, you click on the single sign-in button and it brings you across this Microsoft page. Now, let me get my username, just bear with me, and paste it in there. Next, and it's going to ask for your password. I'm hoping you can't see my other screen because that's where it is. Anyway, I'll paste that in there and sign in. Now, at this stage, it may ask you for a text message from your mobile phone. It's really simple stuff. You just click, yeah, okay. Text my phone, and when the text comes through, you enter the little code number that you get. You might have to get it from an authenticator app. We can help people get set up, or your class administrator might be able to help you get set up for that. Don't want to stay signed in, fine, do that. Okay, so once we log in, this is what we will actually see. So when you first log into class, you will get a couple of message boards. So this one comes from the class help desk, or the staff at the class help desk, which would be me and my colleagues. And we've got a welcome to class and then some information. So there was an outage for class went down, which it does occasionally, unfortunately, back in May. So we had some messages for you about that. You can scroll through and read the other messages if you like. Or obviously not mandatory, unless your class administrator says it is. Then the other message board will be from your center. So you may get messages from your class administrators from the organization you work for here. You may not. That is entirely up to the centers whether they want to use that or not. Okay. So that's what you first see when you log into class. I'll go through the navigation system in class because it's slightly unusual. I don't really know too many other systems that work like this, maybe one or two others, but anyway, I'll show it to you. So to navigate through class, we will look in the bottom left-hand corner, and we've got a navigation menu in here. This is the primary navigation menu. So if you're looking for different items, this is where you look for them. Now, this may look different for you. Now, every class account has a role set on that account. And the roles give you different levels of permissions. So this one has everything. There's 5 options there. Yours might have only 3, maybe 2, maybe even only 1. So just be aware that may look different to what you see. Now, depending on what we choose in this primary navigation menu, our secondary navigation menu, which is in the top left, that will change. These options here will change. So there they go, changing when I click on those different options. Okay, we're going through we're starting from the start. So we'll start at the top at class today. Okay, so that's logging in, and that's the navigation menu. I will show you one or two other things. Up in the top right, there's information about your account. If you want to look at it, there may be a few other settings in there, or you can sign out. If you're on a shared computer and you don't want anyone else using your version of class, which I would highly recommend you don't want that happening, then you can sign out through here. It'll give you your name and the instance of class that you are logged into. Okay, I'll come back to these other things later. All right, now, okay, I'll go through the most basic piece of functionality in class. It is also one of the most important. We often, not often at all. That was incorrect of me. We occasionally get people coming to us saying, can we do this kind of thing? And we realize you didn't do your conflict checking, did you? So it's really important. Conflict checking it's really important to do the conflict checking. So I'm going to show you this right now. I'm also going to show you the functionality we've got within class and how this works. So once I click on conflict check in the top left there, there's one other little thing that I have failed to mention yet. This is to do with the navigating around class. I'll just show you really quickly. It will take us 10 seconds, if that. Okay, so there's this big button here, the show menu button. You can click that and that will minimize the menu and just to make your main screen a bit bigger if you want. Personally, I never use it, but it's up to you. If you want to, go right ahead. Okay, so this is our conflict search and filter screen. So if you click on conflict check, you will see this screen. This screen also appears in other places in class. So if you're doing other things, we'll be going through new intake either next week or the week after, I believe. And we'll be seeing this screen again in different places in class. So I'll show you what this screen is and how it works. So we say that this here is the black line. Technically, to me, it looks like a box, but we call it the black line. Anyway, we also say that we have above the line and below the line. So above the line is searching and below the line is filtering. I was wondering if that was going to work for me and it did. Great. So what we can do, we're doing a conflict check to see if we can actually deliver a service to a client. So what we will do is start by doing a search. Now I'm going to just click on that because it's auto-filled there and I'm going to hit enter. Now, this is what you're going to see a lot if you come to more of these training sessions. If you haven't seen these, if you have been to these training sessions before, you will almost certainly have seen this client of mine. Delete this. Obviously, I haven't gone through and deleted a lot of these, which I should do. Maybe one day I'll get to it. Anyway, this is actually a really good time to stop and mention another thing that I haven't mentioned yet, which I should have probably done by now, but anyway, I'll do it now. So I'm logged into the CLC's Australia instance of class, and your national peak doesn't actually have any clients. We just deliver services to the sector itself, to the centres. So we don't actually have any clients, and none of the data you're seeing today is confidential data. You're not seeing any sensitive information. This is all just dummy data. And this is my dummy client that I use repeatedly, as we can see. Delete this. So you might be doing, I've just realized, you might be doing a search for something really common. Smith, we have, my surname is not Smith, but we do have people in my family, in-laws who are named Smith. So I'm doing a search for Smith, mainly because it's a really good demonstration that we've set up for you. But anyway, okay, so we do a search for Smith. So what we could now do is we could filter these results. So we could do a search for a first name. We could search on DOB, something like that, maybe address, but maybe we want to search on something else. Well, what I could do is I could filter these results. So I could scroll across. Now I'm going to scroll to the right, and there it goes. Now what we'll see is, not going very fast, is it? What we'll see is these first four columns, they stay where they are, but the rest of these columns move across. So maybe we've got something like a client name, and we ask them, what's your mobile number? 1, 2, 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's their mobile number, and you hit enter, and that's going to filter down the results. Now let me undo that. Okay, so this is our search. This is simply a search with no filtering, a search for Smith, and we've got 37 results. Don't really want to go through all those results. I'm going to go copy, And so we can do a filter on something that we can't search on, and that will reduce our search results. So if we have a look in the bottom left, we can see page 1 of 1 and 1 item. I don't know if you can see that, if that's big enough, but that's what that says. Now down the bottom, we've also got our search, the actual search parameters that we're doing. So our search contains, in the mobile column, it's got the mobile number there. What we could do if we wanted to start from the start again is head over to the very bottom right of the screen, and we could click clear sort, and that will remove, that's removed the filtering. It should have removed the search as well, but it hasn't. Anyway, that's actually good. Anyway, because I need to demonstrate other things to you. So we've got this client who's Patty Smith. We've also got this one who's George Smithy. So obviously that's not Smith, but it contains Smith. So that will be why that has turned up in that search result. But if I scroll down, I will find this client here whose name is Jimbo Smimbo. Now that doesn't contain Smith, so you might ask, how has that appeared in these search results? Now I just need to scroll back over to the left. I do that this way, and we'll see this client's additional names. And we'll see in there, one of the additional names is Smithers, which contains Smith. So this is a pretty powerful search engine. It'll try and find anything and everything it can for you. Now the additional names, they may be former names, nicknames, anything like that. I'm sure you probably know what additional names are. Okay, so I think that's about it for our conflict search and filter functionality. I'm not seeing any questions, which is good because we've got about 4 minutes left in the schedule, which might take me to finding documentation and getting help. So we'll wrap up with this. So we do have a whole heap of documentation for class. Now this is getting help, email address and that web address. I'll come back to those. I'm going to flick it back over to class. So here's class, and now I'm going to show you these 3 buttons here. Now this one's a good one. Now if I have 2 tabs open here, the message board and conflict check. And sometimes when I'm working on class, I'll get tabs along here that just run all the way along and start disappearing behind this stuff here. And I can't work with it. It hurts my brain. So if you want to, what you could do is hover over that and then click close all. And there go all the tabs. Now we've got this home button as well. If I click that, the dashboard button, I'll click that. That brings up the message boards. So that is like that's like a fresh version of class. That's what you see when you first log into class. So if it's just a mess and you don't even know what you're looking at anymore and it hurts your brain like it does mine, you can do that. Close all and home if you want, or not even use that, and you get a fresh remade version of class, and you can start again. In between those 2 buttons, we've got this one, the question mark in a circle, or the help button. If you click on that, that will take you through back over to the CLC's Australia website, and it will take you directly to the class documentation. The other way to find this is in the resources, in the big menu there, and class, and that will take you through to the class documentation. Now this is quite expansive. There's documentation on how to use this documentation. There's documentation on pretty much everything to do with class, or the vast majority of it anyway. Today, the stuff that we've looked at would be under the user manual. So this is how you navigate through the class documentation. We've got this navigation menu on the right side of the screen, and I'll click on user manual. And that will then open up a second layer of navigation in this thing here. And we looked at conflict checking, so we could click on that. And we can see this documentation on what class actually is, more alphabet soup. And here's the documentation on conflict checking if you wanted to see that. If you want to find out how do I do, or how does class work, something like that, you could check the class documentation. Now, if you're checking the class documentation and you're still not finding answers to your questions, then we have the class help desk. And the class help desk is pretty easy to get in contact with. There's 3 main ways. Now I'm hovering over help and support there in that right-hand menu. If you click on that, that's how you find the class help desk. That's how you get in contact with the class help desk. There's 3 separate ways on here. We've got some more information about basic stuff, your web browsers, cache clearing process. I might come back to that stuff another day. Now, getting in contact with the class help desk. You can email us. There's the email address. That's what I was saying earlier that I was going to come back to. icthelp@clcs.org.au. That is the email address. If you send an email to that, you will get a response from the class help desk. Now, if you don't like email, putting that mildly, I know a lot of people don't, then you don't have to use email. If you don't want to go trawling through endless email threads, you can use the class portal. So this is I'll open it in a new window. This is an online portal where you can keep track of all of your inquiries with the class help desk in one place. So I'll flick over so we can have a look at the class portal. Here it is here. I'm already logged in. Now, I think from memory, you need to have emailed us to that email address I just showed you before, icthelp@clcs.org.au. I think you'd need to have emailed us there at least once to be able to create an account here. But once you do have an account, this is what it will look like. And you can find all of your requests in the top right there. I would show you what that looks like, but I don't have any requests with the help desk myself, so there's no point in showing you that. If you want to set up a request with us, you can. We support a couple of other systems as well, LexisNexis, the NAS portal. There might be some general feedback about something not related to class. You could click on those and then find an option to use. Otherwise, it might be something to do with connection issues. I can't connect to class and need help with it. An incident I've had relating to class, a request for more training, or a clarification. Might be something like that. So just pick whatever is most appropriate and then ask your question. Okay, so once you've done that, you would just click create, and that will create a help desk request for you. Now, we've also got a phone number. I'll just go through it quickly, show it to you quickly, because we are over time. I am away. There's the phone number. If you want to call us, please do so. We are often working from home these days, so you might not get someone answer your call if you do call, but we've got a voicemail system, so do leave a voicemail, or if you would like to. We do listen to all the voicemails, and if you leave your name and number and what it's about, we will get back to you. So that's the documentation and getting help, although that was kind of quick, but we are over time. So I will say thanks, hope this helps. If you do have any questions, feel free to ask them at the class help desk. Otherwise, I might see you again next week. I hope I do. I really do hope this helps. We understand class is not the most intuitive system, but we hope it's a decent system anyway, and we like giving people training so that we can help people to use class more effectively, more efficiently. Okay, so I might say thanks again. Thanks for being part of this training session, and bye for now from CLCs Australia.